my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and I hope that you guys are doing well and staying safe. For today's video, I am pretty excited because you guys have been requesting that I dive into this case / paranormal haunting since around the beginning of my channel, and I am so excited to finally be diving into the Las Feliz murder mansion. Now, I have heard people pronounce this so many different ways. Some people say Las Feliz murder mansion, some people say Las Feliz murder mansion, but the most common that I've heard is Las Feliz. So if you know the proper pronunciation, please let me know in the comments below. But today's video is interesting, you guys, because I've dove into true crime cases. I obviously dive into paranormal cases, but today's video is a paranormal case due to a true crime case. And it's very fascinating. It's incredibly confusing. In fact, I called Mama Reese while I was researching this, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not grasping what could have happened. In a lot of cases, especially with true crime, you might have an idea or a personal belief on what happened, but with this case, I just don't understand it. And so I'm interested to hear your guys' theories and what you guys think of this as a whole. So without further ado, we are going to dive into this case. But with that being said, please, if you guys enjoy my content, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button if you've yet to do so. And please, please, please turn on your post notifications. I've had an issue lately with people saying they're not being notified for my videos, and I want you guys to be notified. So please turn on your post notifications if you enjoy my videos. Oh, and one last thing, my merch is actually running low. I've been saying it for a bit now, but we are down to the final few of the Believe hoodies and the Wine and Spirits t-shirts. And once they are gone, they are not coming back. So if you wanted to get yourself one of those, then that link will be down in the description. But with all that being said, let's dive right on into all things to do with this case. So it all started with a family. Now the father, Harold Perelson, was a prominent surgeon, specializing specifically in cardiothoracic and allergies. He married a woman named Lillian, and together they would have 3 children, Judy, Joseph, and their youngest, Debbie. Now to everybody on the outside, they were perceived as a picture-perfect family. Lily was described as a loving mother and caring wife. Their children were great kids, and Harold was well respected in the medical field. He'd actually gained notable success after inventing a new type of syringe. Harold had also written one of the most respected clinical reports of all time, and he was a well-respected keynote speaker in medical conferences all across the country. To everybody else, they appeared to have it all: a successful father, a loving mother, 3 beautiful children, and a big, beautiful mansion in wealthy Las Feliz, Los Angeles, California. But on December 6th, 1959 at 4:30 in the morning, you guys, that would all change as Harold awoke to strike his sleeping wife in the head with a hammer. He would then leave her there to die on her own blood and head into the bedroom of his oldest daughter, Judy, to attempt to do the exact same thing and strike her over the head with the exact same hammer. However, in doing so, Judy was able to lift her arm and kind of cushion the impact. Now, while she was able to soften the initial blow of the hammer to her head, it still did connect with her head and completely disorient her, leaving her to stumble back and continue fighting off her father. Judy was screaming for her father not to kill her, as he was telling her to lay still and keep quiet and things of that nature, but her screams did awaken the neighbors and her other siblings, as she was so frantic, which rightfully so. I can't even fathom this type of scenario, and the fact that this is a real crime is crazy to me. At this point, Judy decided to lay still and in essence play dead. And at this point in time, Debbie, their youngest daughter, walked out into the hallway. Now, Harold, thinking that Judy had already passed or was in the process of doing so, went out into the hallway to find his daughter, Debbie. Now, this is where things start to get very strange to me, you guys, because at this point in time, Harold did not attempt to kill Debbie. Instead, he actually comforted her, walked her back to her room, and attempted to assure her that this was all just a bad dream. It was just a nightmare. Head back to sleep. And during this span of time of him doing so, Judy managed to pull it together and run to a neighbor's house. Now, like I said, the neighbors were already awake. They'd heard her screams, they'd heard her blood-curdling cries for help, and so they answered the door very quickly. Upon doing so, they saw that Judy was just covered in blood, and immediately they called the police and an ambulance and just got the first responders there as quickly as possible. Now, during this time, it seemed as though perhaps Harold realized all that was going to transpire in the coming moments. And before the ambulance could even get there, he'd taken a bunch of pills. Now bear in mind, he was a doctor, so he probably knew, or definitely knew, exactly the amount to take in order to end his life. And before they could arrive, he had passed away. Judy was rushed to the hospital immediately with a fractured skull and extreme bruising. However, she would survive. And here's where things get even stranger, you guys. On Harold's nightstand was his book that he'd been reading, still open to the last page that he read. And it read, "Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost." Now, the investigation into the events of that morning was incredibly straightforward. It was very evident to authorities based off the statements of the children, based off the crime scene and the statements of the neighbors, that he had killed his wife, attempted to kill his oldest daughter, and then proceeded to end his own life. But what was very confusing to everybody involved was, why? What on earth was his motive? That night leading up to everything that had transpired was so normal. They'd ate dinner together. They'd casually went to bed. What on earth, within the hours of them all heading to sleep, happened to lead him to attempt to do such horrific acts and to kill his wife? It just didn't make sense. Everybody on the outside especially was so confused as to what would lead a seemingly perfect family to have such a tragedy transpire. Harold was known as a well-mannered man, obviously a successful man, but one thing that came forward was that it seemed as though he had financial troubles. So remember how I said he'd invented a new type of syringe? Well, it came forward that he'd actually spent a ton of his family's money, his own money, into this creation. And he trusted in a business partner. But then it came forward that his business partner, who he went into business with over verbal agreement on the invention that he created, screwed him out of the rights of his own invention. After a bitter legal battle ensued, he wound up only getting just over $20,000 for his invention, which would be so disheartening and horrible considering it was said that he put around that, if not more, into creating this invention. So he'd really taken a loss there. This, coupled with the car accident with Judy and the younger kids, just put him into deeper and deeper financial despair. And it seemed as though this perfect, successful doctor was actually in a great deal of financial trouble. When the police made a routine search of Judy's car, they found a letter written to her aunt, and it read, "We are on the merry-go-round again. Same problems, same worries, only tenfold. My parents are in a bind financially." And the letter basically went on to say how she'd be looking for a job to help her family through this crisis. So these findings led people to believe that perhaps Harold had snapped under a great deal of financial pressure, that maybe with everything going on, he just lost it. Some people believe that he felt as though killing his wife, oldest daughter, and himself would be better than them having to live through the financial troubles that were coming. Although there are plenty of other people who think this just makes zero sense, and how would that line up with the fact that he was letting his other kids live? It didn't make any sense. Now, it was said that with his children that had all survived, they were actually sent out east to live with relatives where they'd have their names changed and identities really just protected so that they didn't have any association with the horrific events that had transpired, which I could completely understand. And since that fateful night, even with new owners, you guys, the mansion has stood empty and the family's belongings remained untouched for over 50 years. The mansion became a disturbing time capsule of the Los Feliz murder-suicide, a seemingly unmotivated crime in a quiet residential neighborhood. Now, there is a rumor that another family attempted to rent the property after everything happened and that they fled it on the anniversary, but that's not confirmed. In 1960, the mansion was actually sold to a couple who didn't even intend to live in it. It was said that they only used the property as a storage site, it seemed. They were only seen bringing items in or occasionally taking items out, but they never truly moved in. Which to me just seems like a total waste of 5,050 square feet. But that was how they used the property. In 1994, their son Rudy inherited the home, and like his parents, he never used the home for anything other than what seemed like a storage site. He never did any renovations to it, he never fixed it up, and he never lived in it. The property was declining, the home was just sitting there, and neighbors started to complain of the state of the home, claiming that it was becoming a spot that squatters frequented in, that trespassers were always there, that trouble was happening there in one way or another. And I mean, when you think about it, it's residing in a wealthy area, or it's situated, in a wealthy area, and others are residing nearby. I can understand why neighbors were growing frustrated with the state of the home. And it was true. Plenty of trespassers, either curious about the paranormal side or curious about what occurred, or just trespassing in general for vandalism or, plenty of other things that were claimed to have been going down there, had plenty of experiences. Ghost hunters were visiting, people were attempting to squat there, children were going there to make trouble or tell scary stories about what had happened. But amongst all of these things, though each individual going there had a different motive behind it, they all had very similar terrifying experiences. And this is where the paranormal side really ties in. Even just roaming outside of the house, plenty of people hear whispers, voices, screams, moans, noises. People hear the sounds of a woman screaming, and a woman specifically screaming no, followed by an eerie, unsettling silence. There's also a male voice that is said to moan and act as though he's in despair, but that too winds up followed by silence. People see faces staring at them from outside of the windows, and even more specifically, the face of a woman. And anytime people try to capture this on camera or get any sort of real evidence of it, it either doesn't show up in the camera or she vanishes and disappears. People have claimed to go there and feel overwhelming feelings of dread. Some people feel fear that something horrible is about to happen, followed by the screams of a woman. And overall, the whole entire house has such an eerie feeling, which is crazy because back before all of this happened, this was a beautiful family home that they were so proud to live in and own. After Rudy's passing, a couple actually bought the home for around $2.3 million in July of 2016, though it needed major renovations, like crazy renovations, you guys. But in 2019, the house was actually listed for $3.5 million, claiming that it had been taken down to the studs, but it couldn't be customized to the couple's standards, forcing them to put it on the market. And that's the last that I could find on it. But that doesn't change the fact it's still one of the most haunted houses in Los Angeles, and that ghost hunters, paranormal enthusiasts, and regular trespassers alike are still having terrifying experiences when they visit the murder mansion. Either way, you guys, it's not shocking to me that a home with such a traumatic past would be haunted. A lot of times hauntings happen for plenty of reasons, but one in particular is that the spirit doesn't even realize that they've passed. And most commonly with situations like that or hauntings like that, it's due to things like murder, unexpected death, like a quick car accident or suicide, just things where maybe it was so traumatic they don't even realize it or they're unable to cross on. And it breaks my heart to think that that could be the case in this home. But what's so confusing to me, you guys, is what was his motive? Why did he do it? Some people think it is because of his financial situation, that he couldn't handle the fact his family was going to lose everything he'd worked for, so he thought that killing his wife and daughter and himself was the way out. Others think that he was possessed. Some think that he was just sleepwalking, and that because of everything going on in his life, he acted out things and did things that he otherwise wouldn't have. But there's so many unexplained factors of this case. Why let his other daughter live? Why walk her to bed reassuring her it was all just a nightmare? Some think that's because that's when he was coming to it, that he thought it was a nightmare. And once he realized that what he'd thought was a nightmare was reality, he took his own life. Others think that he was just mentally unstable. It's actually thought that through all the stress he was dealing with, at some points maybe his wife wanted to admit him to a psychiatric facility. But nobody really knows because, like I said, on the outside, you saw success, a happy family, in a beautiful home that would later turn into nothing but a tragedy and sit empty. I don't know, you guys. What do you guys think of this case? What do you think his motive was? Do you think he was sleepwalking? Do you think he was overwhelmed with his financial burdens? Do you think that he was possessed? What do you think? Please, please, please let me know in the comments below. I do think it's important to note that just because he was successful, just because they seemingly had a beautiful family, just because he was a doctor, doesn't mean that he was exempt from mental illness or exempt from, or I guess incapable of murder. So I just really want to know what you guys think and what you think his motive was down in the comments below. And I want to know what you think of the whole entire thing. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, I would really love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you guys.